Hi, this is Amy Magyar from Within Coaching, and today on CliftonStrengths Unpacked, I'm here as always with Augusta Goodcrawl. Hello, Augusta.
Good morning, Amy. How are you?
I'm well. We're doing self-assurance today, which is, as you had so beautifully said right before, it's a bit of a unicorn. It is the 34th strength, and so really rare. It's not just a unicorn; it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn Pegasus. It's got wings too. Oh my goodness. So this is a chance for us to share a little bit about what we know about strengths, specifically self-assurance today, our experience with it, how we define it. But this is not in lieu of, if you have self-assurance, this is not in lieu of being coached around it, because each of the strengths is very dynamic, and how they interact with each other is part of the beauty of your strengths. It's not just that you have one, it's that you have five very strong strengths, and so really understanding them. So today we're still going to share a little bit of insight, which we know that people with self-assurance appreciate in others, because it is a theme of self-awareness. So I'm going to do my reading of CliftonStrengths. Would define people strong in self-assurance theme feel confident in their ability to manage their own lives. They possess an inner compass that gives them confidence that their decisions are right. So I've heard this also defined, Augusta, as instinctive awareness ability.
Mhm.
But the one that I came up with was conscious capability.
Mm.
You are aware
Yeah.
that you have the capability to figure something out, or to lean in, or whatever it is, but you have a capability and you are conscious about it. How would you define
Absolutely.
it?
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, this is what is it? The least most common strength to show up in someone's top five, and so it is. It was really interesting learning about this, because when I think about it, it really is about self-confidence. They're one and the same. And so it's that the ability to have that internal, I think you had written, I mean, you had spoken to it, the internal compass,
Yeah.
that ability to really have high certainty and trusting your intuition. And you had mentioned it's around abilities, your ability to do something. I think it also comes with that high certainty and that internal compass around all types of decisions in life.
Yeah. And I think along with that, with that confidence in that consciousness, it's self-awareness. You are
Absolutely.
aware that you may or may not know, and that actually doesn't scare you. Um,
Yes.
right? Or
Yes.
it may not be as scary as it may be for somebody else.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's not saying if I have high self-assurance, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I have a certainty that I will find the answer. And so that is a huge environment, absolutely. And for me, it comes across as a grounded and almost a calm trust
Yes.
in self.
Yes.
It's a
I wrote,
beautiful, I mean, sounds beautiful, right?
it's what's interesting is that it's a trust in their own internal instinct, and they show up. Others have trust in them
Yeah,
because of the
absolutely.
trust they have in themselves, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a lot about trust.
I'm looking at I have a paper full of 1,000 notes here. So I'm looking at all my little, um, uh, the belief. So this is interesting. People with self-assurance have a belief that they are their best resource, but that's not an ego thing. It's not, like you said, it's not, I have all the answers, but I believe in myself that I will be able to, I have what it takes to get to the answer, even if I don't have that answer. And again, kind of said in a different way than what you were saying, but you are the best resource for yourself. And so self-reliance could be
Mm,
another term, in
absolutely.
just, wow, just having that rock solid ability and understand thyself, both the good and the bad, right?
Yeah, and I really like this strength a lot because for me it really brings to mind it's a feeling strength, maybe more so than the others, that internal trust and that internal knowing. For me, I think of it as a feeling sense because somebody with self-assurance, I would assume, I have not had any clients with self-assurance,
Yeah.
but would not have maybe the inner conflict that we so often navigate ourselves or see in others. And so that's why I think this is a really, really beautiful strength as far as the body-mind connection. And I'd love to hear if you've ever had anyone as a client with this, and if you've seen any of that.
Yeah, I just had an aha moment because I do have a client that has self-assurance. I haven't worked with him in a while, but it was so fun to sort of have this. And we actually worked together with he and his team. So he's the head of an organization. My aha moment just now came up with this idea, um, sort of he has no internal conflict.
Hmm.
He is
Wow.
so calm from the outside. I think where there are times, and I didn't realize this until just now, I think there are times that where he maybe showed up like he was doubting or not as strong was because he knew he would figure it out, but he felt almost like something's wrong with me because everybody else is worried and everybody else is concerned about
Mm,
figuring it out. And so I think
interesting.
he thought maybe the decision, like he would second guess his decisions when people were like, "Are you sure?" And he's like,
Right.
"I am. I, I am. I could be wrong." And they were just like, "But how did you get to that?" And maybe they wanted data, and
Mm,
he used instinct. And
yeah.
25 plus years of experience in the industry that he's in, but I think that wow, that threw him for a loop when
Yeah.
he sort of looked around him and said, maybe that should have been harder for me to come up with. So the
Yeah.
doubt started to
Yeah.
kick in a
Amen.
little bit of, I'm not doing it like everyone else. And I think if
Mm,
we know that self-assurance is the least common theme to show up in people's top five, especially, um, is that this is a great example of a strength of remembering not everybody has that theme and has developed it as a strength.
right.
So
Absolutely.
really requires patience, but also requires, maybe in this particular case with my client, is, and I'm going to go back and share this little aha moment with him, of sort of patience with himself that this is okay.
Yeah.
It really is, because he's not seeing anyone like him with this calmness and this
Hmm.
certainty around him. So he must be wrong, right? So it's funny how it kind of plays off of each other, because someone with self-assurance, they're actually okay being wrong
Yes.
because they don't see it as being wrong. They see it as an opportunity to learn. Um, but they don't have a lot of comparisons. So
Yeah.
it's
That
interesting.
is.
It may make them doubt a bit. Sorry, I've just talked
Yeah.
a lot. What's coming up for
No,
you around that?
I think that's really true. I mean, I'm just thinking about that. And I mean, when I was reading about like what types of environments or, workplace would be best for somebody who has this in top five, what kind of made me think about what could give somebody a wobble as far as that doubt, is when you're in a situation that might not be aligned with your own values, or it's those inner knowings. And so if we have that in our top five, or high, even in the top 10, and we stray a bit from what our knowings tell us, which is again just such a huge topic in itself. Like, how do we even develop the sense to be able to tap into that? But when we stray from that, I would think that would also cause
Yeah.
maybe that doubt. Just making sure that you're in a corporation or in a relationship or any type of relationship where somebody is very similar with values and missions or goals.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that environment, I think to play off of that and continue that idea, I have a few little notes here that for someone with self-assurance, asking for clarity where you work on what rules can and cannot be broken can
Mm.
really be helpful because it helps them understand they do tend to have a bit of an independent streak because they don't need a lot of encouragement or a lot of, hey, I believe in you and hey, go get them. But I think having them understand the expectations will help them be able to move forward more easily, and understanding, are there, sort of the rules to be broken in real life is a rolling stop sign. It's a rule, right? You're not supposed to do it. When you're when you're out in Kansas and it's a four-way stop and you look and you haven't seen anybody for thousands of miles, do you roll through or do you stop? But that's one of those examples. But I think the other thing is also for people with self-assurance is making sure that it's the kind of organization where what's the others goals, so people that you're working with, that they feel that they can share what's happening for them and what their goals are, not the company's goals per se, but their own, because I think
Mhm.
self-assurance really appreciates the internal side
Oh yeah,
of a human being, right? So
yeah,
they not only appreciate what they have a belief that other people can do. I mean, this is a beautiful coach right here of believing and maybe misunderstanding it of, well, if I have this, everybody must have this, and not everybody has this, as we've said. But
absolutely.
this person believes that everybody can come to that same place. And again,
Yeah,
let's say this, as coaches, right? We do believe everybody can come to that place.
yeah,
The thing about self-assurance is that, remember, because it's a strength, folks, this fuels people. So the idea of just being able to believe and know and feel in your heart and soul, and then being able to show up as a leader, as a parent, as a partner in a relationship, that you're bringing this calm, that's fueling for you. Versus some of
absolutely.
us who are struggling to sort of really get to this place of belief in ourselves, that may be work. For these people, this is not work. This is just the way it
Yeah,
is. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautifully said. And it's so true because when we're really navigating from our strengths and they're balanced and we're totally on point with them, it's how we impact others that also fuels us. And so for me, just thinking about the self-assurance, when somebody is standing strong in their self-assurance and in a aligned environment and able to show up that way, it impacts others to show up the same way. And that in itself is a very forward moving, activating kind of energetic, I think,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to use a little leadership sort of scenario here. We, in the animal kingdom, which I just am fascinated by in terms of how humans behave or don't behave like out in the world of animals. What's interesting is that human beings really the only um, beings on the planet that follow an unstable leader.
Mm,
And what's interesting with self-assurance is that we are drawn, like you said, we are drawn to assurance. We are drawn to this, oh, they believe, they know, okay, we go to that. We will still follow someone without that. And for a number of reasons why we're, sort of fascinated with them. But what's interesting is that in the animal kingdom, an animal, an alpha or a lead pack,
mm.
the head stallion and a herd, whatever it is, that is almost what they have is the self-assurance of like, I got
Absolutely.
this. Um,
Absolutely.
so that comes almost innately for those leaders, for the alphas and for those leaders, in packs and in herds and in flocks, but not so much in human beings, yet we still follow. But it's
Yeah.
so much better when we can follow someone who does bring self-assurance to that of it's okay to not know because we'll figure it out. I mean, I'd follow that person anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's that confidence, or that well, the confidence in the ability, not so much in I am right or I am wrong. And I think that's where we get hung up a lot. And a lot of it is, when you talk about the animal kingdom, it's an energetic, somebody who shows up that way has a ripple effect. And that's survival for whatever that herd is, or the other animals. So it boils down kind of to that, doesn't it?
It's so interesting. So if I go back to my client for a second, who is a leader, I think one of the things that his team struggled with at times was that he almost didn't, when something was not going well, that he had to sort of learn to show the emotion that was probably normal for that scenario. Not so much that he had to overreact, but he just had to at least be able to show up of, wow, I can understand why this would be scary, because for him it wasn't. It just wasn't. And so people were like, do you not feel? Are you not worried? I mean, my God. So what he had to realize is he had to be able to, he didn't have to go into reaction mode, but he had to be able to say to the other people, I understand how this is affecting you, and I could see why there is fear for you.
Yeah.
And that is so human and so normal. And let's feel that, but then let's also figure out a way out of it. And so
Absolutely.
as he was becoming a stronger leader, I think he was nuancing that maturing of that strength of, hey, let's figure out a way to meet people where they're at, and understand that, and this is imagine somebody with self-assurance and empathy, right? What an incredible sort of
Wow.
strength.
Yeah.
Speaking of self-assurance, I have my cat just showed up. I believe cats all have self-assurance. I'm going to let her down. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah. She'll be
Maybe
back
join
up.
us again, but cats are funny, right? They just kind of show up. Nothing seems to phase them. They just land on
No,
their feet,
absolutely.
right? Thank you to my cat
Absolutely.
Nikita she must have heard Animal Kingdom, right? Um,
So I have a question for you.
Please.
When we think, you were talking about your client and how others perceive him, could be, or others interact with him.
Wow.
If we're talking about this strength of self-assurance, what are some of the ways, it's not a pitfall, but maybe what are some of the ways that others might see someone if it's dialed up a little bit too high?
Yeah, yeah. So the word cocky has
Yeah.
definitely been used before.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's not an intention for that.
Right.
There's not an intention to show up as a know-it-all, or because they don't. They're going to be the first ones that actually their ego is so not fragile often. They're just, of course I have no idea, but it's okay. And that may show up as cocky. I think the other
Yeah.
thing is that they could be called a bit of a lone wolf.
Yeah, because of the independence, that
Yeah,
ability. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, what comes to mind for me is risk taker, but
yeah.
also, you've heard in Australia the tall poppy syndrome.
Oh no, what? Tell me that.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's where don't you dare show up and be any different than anyone else
Ah,
in your knowing, or in anything. We all need to stay the same. And so when somebody, and that can be, it's not just in Australia, you see that in a lot of families actually, or whatever, how dare you act like that, be so self-assured, act like you know everything. I mean, you kind of get cut down. And so it's it can be a challenge to show up in this strength, maybe.
yes, yes. I actually know it. I love the poppy. I love that. I know it as the Alaskan king crab scenario, which is when they put the big sort of pots, they call them,
Mhm.
um, and they put food inside and they throw the pots over.
Oh yeah.
What's interesting is most people don't realize that crabs come in, but they actually can get out. There's a way to get out. And when a crab has decided that no sun's hanging out here, food's all gone, and a bunch of us are kind of hanging out. I'm gonna go find food. When they go to try to leave, often that crab will be killed by that group of
Oh my
crabs,
goodness.
in a sense of like, no, 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 don't, you have to be a part of us. That's dangerous. You're going to get us in trouble in some way. And so it becomes this thing. And so again, folks with self-assurance may show up as the one, because they may be risk takers with, but they actually don't see it as a risk, which is funny,
It's,
right?
yeah.
So it's an opportunity to grow or learn, and what's going
Yeah,
to come out of it's going to come out of it. And that could be really scary for people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, I'll never watch The Deadliest Catch the same again. I did not know that about crabs, but that's a human instinct too. It's like, don't stray from the tribe, or,
Yes.
you'll
Yes.
get killed. So that's, brings me right back to where I find this strength to be fascinating and very appealing. And, so elusive, obviously, is 34, but
What's
what
so
a great,
interesting about this, when we talk about sort of the external sort of energy that's coming at us as human beings in everyday lives, is with self-assurance. It's not that they don't care what's coming at them, but they're going to determine how. I mean, they're literally going to decide, how am I going to let that affect me? And talk about a superpower.
mm,
Because for most of
absolutely.
us, when things are coming at us, we're just like, I'm just going to let it. We don't have that self-awareness of how it's going to affect us, right? But self-assurance often is sort of, hey, that's really good to know. I'm either going to take it or leave it, or I'm going to take that into consideration, or I'm not. But they're not, feedback is welcome, but so I think, again, talk about the unicorn, the Pegasus unicorn, whatever it is, this is so rare. And yet for any of us to have strength envy, this is the one, right? There's so much we can learn from this, and so
Absolutely.
much. Yeah.
It's a beautiful strength.
Yeah. I love it. And we can keep talking about it. And I'm looking at our time. We should start to wrap up a little bit. Is there anything else that you want to share or ask about strength before we sort of wrap up?
I just, again, I think of how when we're in our strengths, how we have that ability to impact others and have them show up in different ways. And so I think this is a beautiful example of a really grounded um, trust and stability, those words that just come up. And I wish I was around more people that had this strength, for sure.
And perhaps some of the incredible work that folks like Brene Brown are doing,
Yeah,
Glennon
absolutely.
Doyle,
Glennon
where
Doyle, yeah.
talk about just being, and it's okay, and vulnerability, and you may not have all the answers, and it's okay.
Yeah,
Perhaps this will be one of those strengths that we can try to get up the sort of
yeah.
up the length a little bit over the next couple of years, because it is, these folks are powerhouses. They show up, and they are often the beacons for us of light, of what's possible and hope. So
Wonderfully said.
yeah,
Beautiful ending. Yeah. Wow.
love it. With that being said, Augusta, thank you so much for not only being a fun strengths coach to be with, but I've just so enjoyed our time looking at some of these, especially the little bit more rare ones.
Yeah,
Because I think
absolutely.
that there is sometimes misunderstandings about self-assurance of like, well, they're a know-it-all, or they're
Hmm.
cocky, or whatever it is. And we're able to sort of show that there's beauty in every strength. There's highs and lows in every strength, but really understanding this one, because it is truly a gem. So thank
Yes.
you for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
We'll see you on the next Unpacking Strengths, today with self-assurance. If there's anything that we can leave you with, think about this. What is something that you know to be true beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond an unreasonable doubt? You just know it to be true, and see if you can't practice a little bit of self-assurance today. Thank you.